Hello, everyone, and welcome to this morning's web seminar. My name is Debbie Rauscher with the John Burton Foundation, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So I wanted to start out by welcoming everybody. We're very excited to have all of you on the call today. We've got a great mix of people listening in today, ranging from child welfare representatives to foster youth services, to colleges, to community-based organizations, and all kinds of other folks. So we're really excited to have you all here today. Next slide, please. So before we jump into the content, I'm going to go over just some technical details. Most of you are probably listening in through your computers, but if you are having any problems hearing, you can try calling in and listening through your telephone as well. So we've got the phone number and access code there up on your screen if you're interested in listening in via telephone. If you have questions during the web seminar, there's a box on your control panel where you can submit questions to us. So you just type your question into the panel and hit send, and we will get the question. We're going to be doing all the questions at the very end, but feel free to send your question at any point during the presentation. And then after we've heard from all of our panelists, we'll do a Q&A session at the end where we'll try to get to as many of the questions as possible. Finally, I want to let folks know that all of the presentation materials will be posted on our website, cacollegepathways.org. We will also be sending out the PowerPoint presentation from today to everybody who's on the web seminar. So I know a lot of times people will ask if they can get a copy of the PowerPoint slides after the web seminar. We will be sending that to everyone. In addition, today's web seminar is actually based on a report that we put together that provides a lot more detail about the subject that we're going to be talking about today. And a copy of that full report will also be sent to everybody who's on the call today after the web seminar. Next slide. So I'm very, very excited to welcome our panelists on today's web seminar. In addition to myself, we have Linda Williams, who's with Sierra College in Placer County. We have Roger Golick, who's with the Humboldt County Office of Education. Devin Warble with the John Burton Foundation, Elise Coutini with the Silicon Valley Children's Fund, and Sherry Brooks also with the Silicon Valley Children's Fund. And each one of these folks is going to be talking about a different collaboration throughout the state. So we're really excited to have everybody on the call with us today. Next slide. So before we jump into hearing about the different collaborations that we're going to be focusing on today, I want to give a little bit of background. So first is to talk a little bit about why we're focusing here on higher education. The graph that you see on your slide, the picture is worth 1,000 words, kind of shows you what a difference higher education can make in terms of job stability as well as income. So you can see that, for example, having a bachelor's degree more than doubles your income versus not having a high school diploma. And so over the course of somebody's lifetime, this actually adds up to close to $1 million worth of income based on the access to education. In addition, unemployment is much higher for folks who have less education. And so, for example, in our most recent recession, when you hear about unemployment rates of 8 or 9%, often what's not reported is that the burden of that is disproportionately felt by those who have lower educational attainment. So for those who have professional degrees, their employment actually remained relatively stable even during the hard times, whereas those who just had a high school diploma had well above average in terms of unemployment rates. In addition to the income factors that are affected by access to post-secondary education, there's a lot of research that shows that there's various other benefits to participating in higher education: lower incarceration rates, improved health outcomes, higher levels of civic participation, etc. And the graph that you see in front of you is only going to get more pronounced, not less pronounced, as time goes on. The fastest growing industries are things like healthcare, education, business support services, things that require education beyond the high school diploma. And on the flip side, there are fewer and fewer options for those without college degrees now. Occupations that are losing the most jobs are the low-skill service sector jobs like clerks, cashiers, telemarketers, etc. Next slide, please. So despite what we know about the value of higher education, unfortunately, access to higher education for foster youth is still not where we'd like it to be. So the graph that you see in front of you shows the results of a survey that was conducted as part of the planning for AB 12, where 83% of foster youth surveyed indicated that they had a desire to go to college. And this was remarkably different from the numbers who actually went to college, and the numbers who succeeded in obtaining either a 2-year or 4-year degree were even less than that. The good news is that with AB 12, there's really an opportunity to shift these numbers. So research has clearly demonstrated that having access to extended foster care benefits like we now have through AB 12 improves access to post-secondary education. There was a study done in the Midwest where they compared Illinois, which had foster care to age 21, with Wisconsin and Iowa, which did not. And they were able to show that those who had access to extended foster care were nearly twice as likely to have attended college and more than twice as likely to complete at least 1 year of college compared to their peers who didn't have access to extended foster care. So we're in a phase right now where as the AB 12 continues to roll out, there's really tremendous potential here. However, in order to realize this potential, just providing the benefits themselves is not going to be enough to get to where we want to be. We really need better collaboration and coordination between all the various systems, in particular child welfare and post-secondary education. So up until recently, when a youth exited foster care at the age of 18, the nature of collaboration between the two systems, if it existed at all, was really focused on preparing youth for college and the handoff that would occur after emancipation. In many counties, colleges do interact with the independent living programs, but fewer counties have instituted a more systematic form of alliance between child welfare and post-secondary education. And while the independent living programs are a tremendous resource for foster youth between 16 and 21, not all foster youth access these supports, whereas all foster youth who are participating in extended foster care are going to have continuous contact with their county social worker. So county child welfare agencies often don't have a formalized system of collaboration in place with local colleges and universities to address some of these broader policy and practice issues. With youth now able to stay in foster care until age 21, the nature of the collaboration between these two systems really needs to evolve to reflect this new paradigm. College preparation remains an important aspect of collaborative efforts, but this now needs to be supplemented by additional coordination designed to support youth while they are actively enrolled in college. Moving forward, foster care and post-secondary education are actually going to be overlapping in the lives of many of these young people. It's not just going to be a handoff anymore, but there's going to be a much greater need for coordination and collaboration. And that's really what we're here to talk about today. Next slide. So the map that's on the slide shows the 6 communities that were highlighted in the report that we wrote. And I do want to say that these are certainly not the only 6 communities that have these kinds of collaborations. We tried to select a group of different counties that represented the diversity of the types of collaboration that exists. So we've got a mix of big counties and small counties and rural counties and urban counties, and collaborations that were spearheaded by the child welfare side and collaborations that were spearheaded by one of the local colleges or universities to really try to represent all of the different approaches that communities have taken to this type of collaboration. The 4 counties that we're going to be hearing from today are Humboldt, Placer, Santa Clara, and Los Angeles. And you can see I put up there the numbers of the overall population numbers and the numbers of foster youth in care, so that you can get a sense of the fact that these kinds of collaborations can exist regardless of what kind of community you're in. So we've got everything from Los Angeles with 18,000 foster youth in care, all the way down to our smallest county represented, Placer, that has 255 folks in care, and Humboldt, who has a very small population overall, and then Santa Clara, which is more of a medium-sized county as well. So just to let you know that these types of collaborations are doable regardless of what type of community you are in. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Linda Williams with Sierra College, who's going to share some information about what they're doing in Placer County.
Thank you, Debbie. You know, back in the day, back in '07, the Chancellor's Office for the California Community Colleges saw a need, and they launched something called the Foster Youth Success Initiative. And out of that, they were hoping to have a liaison, pardon me, a liaison from every campus, and they were pleasantly surprised that they had not just one from all of our campuses, but oftentimes 2. So out of that, the FYSI kickoff, we were inspired to do something at Sierra College. So a few of us here at the college partnered with our Placer County Office of Education to kind of form what that might look like, and to see who needed to be at the table, and then build our relationships. And it really took a year to do this. We go ahead and hit the next slide. It took us a lot of coming together, coming apart, coming together before we got it right. And I wanted to, for those who are out there in our college transition support team, I wanted to give a shout out, because I think that we have a few online. Without this, their commitment to forming such a valuable team for our students, it just wouldn't have happened. So once we kicked it off with all of our partners, we decided our goal was we just couldn't look at our students in a whole, in an academic setting. We needed to look at them in a holistic view. We wanted to take care of their academics, sure, but we wanted to increase their persistence and their success rate for all the good reasons that Debbie mentioned earlier. And so we started having meetings twice a month. We committed as a group to meeting twice a month, and we would craft a big picture item that we would want to meet each year, plus the smaller ones that we could manage throughout the year. And through this partnership, we also were able to triage our students. Sierra College, just this year, we have 185 students who have been identified and documented that they are indeed former foster youth that are attending Sierra College. Now that's a pretty large number given what Debbie showed earlier of how many youth are in care here, but we've become a little bit of a magnet because of the work that we're doing here in a collaborative effort. It's so, our president calls us a magnet, and I like that label. So the other goal for us was to be able to pass our students off to other like-minded universities or sometimes colleges, and we've developed not only things within our own Placer County system, but we've developed relationships outside of Placer County with our gaining universities. Next slide, please. This just gives you an idea about what this structure looks like. This is not all of our partners, but it is a great many of our partners. And we've stopped meeting twice a month initially, during our formulation. For the first 2 or 3 years, we were meeting twice a month. We have become so good at what we do and so close that we now meet once a month, and then we email each other. We have a large email chain within Placer County that when we have a need for a student, or if we have a question, because things change. I'm not an expert in AB 12, but I sure have people on this committee, we do, that are experts. So if we've got a question for a student or for our own knowledge, all we do now is send an email out to everybody, and that includes all the folks that you're seeing here, plus a dozen others. We have about 50 people who are 50 organizations who and people who are involved in this team, and we usually get our answers back within the same day. We are now moving in a like-minded direction, which often happens after you form a very successful team. Next slide. Some of the things that we've been able to accomplish are listed here. As you can see, it's not just their academic needs. We've participated with under many different umbrellas with some of our partners. They come to us, we go to them. Each year, the City of Roseville now recognizes the work that we do here at Sierra College and with our community partners, and they've given us a grant for the last 5 years to actually organize ourselves and welcoming our new and returning students. We're very, very proud of this because it's a collaborative effort that the City of Roseville will not even give us unless we had a strong community base. It's just not a Sierra College base. And we welcome our new and returning students every year with not just a luncheon, but they get to meet other students that are right either out of the system or continuing through AB 12, and we get to welcome them in such a way that's more loving than it is academic, and we give them all kinds of gifts besides setting them up for their school supplies and backpacks and the setting. We have adopted dorms. Yeah, we're one of the community colleges that has adopted dorms. So we outfit their dorm rooms just like any parent wouldn't do. We take on the role of parent. But we've also secured health services, mental health services, laptops. We partnered with our foundation office and some community providers to provide new and or refurbished laptops. Literally, our students do not, as long as our students are working with us in a partnership, and I know sometimes that's hard to do, there isn't much that our students are going to go without. We will find a way to improve upon their lot academically and holistically. I'll give you the next slide. Just to continue on with some of the things that we've been successful at. And just this year, we have a framework that we're using. I know you all know about the Casey family programs, and they have published a framework that we use in supporting success in higher education and outcomes. And while it might be a couple of years old, its core elements in establishing a really viable program are valid today, and we're still using this, and we're in our final stages at this point of creating housing stipends, and our community is behind us, our foundation is behind us, our leadership. I have great champions in our campus, and it's taken this, in fact, we couldn't have launched anything without the champions on our campus, but we are now back revisiting housing stipends and how that might look with our students, because we really would like to follow and be a full-fledged Guardian Scholars model, and I think that CTST is very close to accomplishing that, maybe even this year. And we probably could have had it done earlier, but the wheels fell off our wagon when the economy tanked, and now that the wheels are coming back on our wagon, we've picked back up the ball and are reestablishing all of our good connections. So that's Sierra College's and our Placer County community efforts under the umbrella called the College Transition Support Team. And at this point, I'd like to hand this off to Roger from Humboldt County Office of Education.
Okay, I see up on my screen it says Los Angeles.
Yes, thank you, Roger. So I am going to jump in. This is Devin speaking on behalf of Jenny Serrano from LA's DCFS. Unfortunately, she couldn't be with us today. So I'm just going to give an overview of the LA Court Scholars Collaboration. So this was formed in 2009 by two retired, one Commissioner Marilyn Mackle and Judge Emily Stevens, and they spearheaded the creation of LA Court Scholars. The effort was really a direct result of Judge Stevens' leadership as a supervising judge at the time of the dependency court, and really her ongoing focus on the education of the bench about the provisions of independent living services and resources during her time on the dependency court bench. So Commissioner Mackel initiated this effort with a letter to campus presidents throughout LA County, really just requesting their participation in this collaborative partnership with the Department of Children and Family Services, known in LA and statewide as DCFS, to bolster the level of support that foster youth who are attending colleges were receiving. And the first campus to connect and partner was CSU LA, Cal State Los Angeles, and they already had an existing relationship with DCFS, so it was kind of a natural place to start. And this then Court Scholars was born. So the letter was signed by the presiding judge for Los Angeles County, DCFS, and Cal State LA. And then the group adopted the name of LA Court Scholars. The structure here is pretty simple. The family court judge who presides over child welfare caseload is assigned the duty of calling meetings and coordinating the group. Since Commissioner Mackel's retirement, this role has now transitioned to a new judge, Judge Ziegler, I believe. And meetings are held approximately every 2 months at the LA courthouse. The agenda is sent out in advance. Minutes are kept of each meeting. Typically, there's around 20 to 25 people who participate in any given meeting. And since the group is fairly large and there's a combination of community colleges, Cal State, UCs, private community-based organizations, of course, CASAs, ILP workers, probation, et cetera, it was interesting for them to kind of think about having subcommittees to make sure that different issues are actually being researched, resolved, and outcomes are occurring. So a few of these committees include identification and tracking of foster youth and county-wide support to colleges, DCFS and College Partnership Committee, the communication with foster youth caregivers and partners, and the last, the fundraising committee. And these committees right now are in full swing and doing some incredible work now under our new leader, Judge Zeke. So there's some really interesting things happening, which I'm sure many of you have seen the fruits of. So agendas typically include unresolved issues from meetings before, committee reports, future goals, and other announcements, anything that's like hot to trot on the ground, things that are happening for foster youth that people need to know about. Any member can request that an item be added to the agenda, so it's fairly open. The focus of the meeting content is on information sharing, of course, addressing larger system-related issues, and really opportunities for leveraging existing resources rather than problem solving of individual cases. So, you know, it's fine to work in our small organizations, but then to be able to kind of see what other people are doing instead of working in silos and by ourselves is really beneficial. So you see here on your screen the participants that are included. I kind of mentioned this before. You've got DCFS as a child welfare agency here in Los Angeles, community colleges, Cal State, UCs, CYC is sometimes at the table as well. We've got obviously attorneys and judges, County Office of Education, and LA Unified. Some of our biggest accomplishments here, I mean, first and foremost, it's, you know, the opportunity for networking and building relationships. Many individual relationships have actually grown from the work of the committee that have led to cross-training, leveraging of resources, and co-sponsoring of college events for foster youth between agencies. We've created protocols for priority registration. I say we because I attend the Court Scholars meetings as well. Obtain donation of computers for foster youth to utilize while at court hearings, while at court buildings for hearings. Provide a forum for information sharing about new legislation, policy changes within DCFS, and opportunities at specific campuses or in the community. Another interesting thing that has come out of our work is the creation of fact sheets from court personnel on topics such as college enrollment and financial aid. The fact sheets include key deadlines so that judges who hear foster care cases are able to follow up at hearings with youth. Minors attorneys also utilize these fact sheets to remind youth of upcoming deadlines and provide support with the college admissions and enrollment process. They've also sponsored an information sharing forum. The forum had over 100 attendees that included individual county social workers, representatives from different campus departments, and ILSP staff. Some more accomplishments here continued. Sharing of information by DCFS that helps those working with students to successfully navigate the county bureaucracy and all the complex systems that county has. Funds to assist Cal State LA with programs for foster youth. The creation of a verification system that enables college campuses to more easily verify foster youth status within DCFS. A liaison for the placement of the California Social Work Education Center, CalSELECT MSW students on various college campuses to work with foster youth, and that has been extremely beneficial, of course, primarily to the foster youth attending our college campuses, but also to the program coordinators who are working with these youth, because these MSW interns are just, they're just so committed and dedicated to working with these young people in a very intentional way. They secured a CalSELECT MSW student to be stationed at the Children's Courthouse, and efforts right now are underway to create a more user-friendly interface for the ILP program's online portal and ILP outreach campaign. And now I'm going to turn it over to Roger from Humboldt County.
Okay, so a little bit of history of where we came to be able to create a kind of a working committee for higher education. It originally grew out of an initiative, California Connected by 25, which the Department of Social Services here in Humboldt County got back in about 2008. And I came on board at HCOE at 2009. And so this initiative was brought resources to the county to really implement AB 490. So the first thing that was done was to create a committee, which became known as the Humboldt County Foster Youth Education Steering Committee. And this committee was headed up by all the major leadership from the Humboldt County Office of Education, Probation, Department of Social Services, Juvenile Court, County Council, Humboldt State, College of the Redwoods, Foster Parent Association, community-based partners such as Redwood Community Action Agency, Youth Service Bureau, the Yurok Tribe. So, and from that, a consultant was brought in as well to facilitate the collaboration process and help drive the initiative of how to implement AB 490. And that was Tracy Freed from San Diego, who had a great deal of experience with the implementation of AB 490 down in San Diego. From that committee, a lot of work was done, and once we were kind of up and going, a subcommittee was established more on an informal basis, and this subcommittee on higher education started really just meeting at a local coffee shop, and there was 4, 5, 6 of us, and representatives from Humboldt State, College of the Redwoods, probation, and myself from Humboldt County Office of Ed, and a few others. And so the goal was to, one, sort of build informal relationships so that we could get to know our systems better and to help advocate for individual kids or situations that came up as needed. So next slide, please. So like I said, we started meeting twice a month, and we became, aside from developing the relationship part of things, we really began working around specific tasks, such as one of the goals of the juvenile court judge was to really get our foster youth excited about graduating high school and moving on to college. So one of the events that we have done over the last 5 years annually is the Educational Dreams Luncheon. So we decided, that's just one example. So our group, we found if we have specific tasks to work on, that gives everyone something to do and bring to the table. We also use it as a time to check in across interagencies. What we found is, even though some of us have been in the field for a while, we may not know a lot about child welfare services, or someone in child welfare services or probation may not understand education and how it works. So we do a kind of a check-in of what's the latest and greatest happening with our agencies and how things are, maybe how new legislation is affecting going on within our agencies. So that's another thing we utilize these meetings for. And then another sort of larger event that we've assisted with has been a local Humboldt County Beyond the Bench events. And within the theme of those Beyond the Bench has been either implementing AB 490 or addressing the issues of higher education participation. And we work closely with the juvenile court judge. And there's been in the last 4 years, there's been a few judges who have rotated into the position, all extremely supportive of our educational efforts. Other tasks other than the Educational Dreams Luncheon, which takes place either, we rotate between Humboldt State University and College of the Redwoods. It's an all-day event. We bring foster youth to the campus, get them meeting not only the presidents and administrators, but students, former foster youth, current foster youth, AB 12 youth. And so that's been very successful. And it's really been a great collaboration. A couple of other events we've worked on is we've had our own Humboldt County Foster Youth Education Summits. And in fact, this year in March, we're planning our 3rd Education Summit. And so a good chunk of that all-day summit, which will involve participants from the community and a variety of agencies and youth as well, will be around the idea of increasing our local foster youth into higher education settings, whether it's locally at College of the Redwoods, HSU, or somewhere around the state. So that's going to be happening. That's our big task for the spring. We also help coordinate interagency cross-trainings. So, and these can involve small groups such as 10, 15 people from, say, CASA, or going to Child Welfare Services and working with the Permanency Planning Division. So we help organize trainings, especially with the implementation of AB 12 coming on board and what that means for our youth. Let's see, I mentioned Beyond the Bench already. So our meetings really revolve around a lot of task-oriented activities. Our formal meetings, we do, when we're working on some of the bigger issues, such as Beyond the Bench, we will meet with the juvenile court judge up in the courthouse, and that will now be Judge Wilson, who is taking over in January. Next slide, please. So I talked a little bit about the participants. We have really developed some strong partnerships with the Office of, from College of the Redwoods, EOPS. They're very active in recruiting and helping to retain current and former foster youth. College of the Redwoods is one of the few junior colleges that has dorms, and so they've also set up a system of which to assist foster youth if they need to be there throughout the holidays and or summer. They actively go out and recruit through our local schools, and I'll explain in a minute about how they identify current foster youth in our local schools. And of course, County Office of Education, myself, and Department of Child Welfare Services. And one of the great things that they have done, which was part of the initiative, was they actually have created a full-time education liaison position within Child Welfare Services. So there is a point person within CWS that works with myself and other agencies in our schools very closely of being able to exchange information about current foster youth, troubleshoot. So I think that shows a commitment on the part of our local child welfare services to, improving educational outcomes for our foster youth. And Humboldt State has been extremely active, and it says Talent Search here, which is located out of Humboldt State, and they have several programs which either directly or indirectly really help to recruit, identify, and support foster youth. And the Talent Search program is where they have go on our campuses, both junior high and high school campuses, to help provide tutoring and mentorship for all kinds of kids, but they specifically identify foster youth and try to reach out to them and provide them educational support. The TRIO program is a relatively new program, and this is where Humboldt State actually goes in with high school campuses and partners in the classrooms and works with students' college prep activities, and so really supporting. So it's a actual partnership with several of our high school campuses. And then the Elite Scholar Club, which was created about 2 years ago at Humboldt State, which without any money, I have to say, give credit to Adrienne Colgrove Raymond, who heads up Talent Search and the TRIO program. She just decided to start a club, and they identify former foster youth and have provided a half-time position up on the campus to support that club. And Vincent Feliz, he works with the Elite Scholars. They in helping them address any needs they have, whether it's financial needs, emotional needs, to help stabilize and retain them at HSU. We're also utilizing the Elite Scholars to reach back down to our current foster youth as mentors and as tutors, and so that's that's a new program, and we're just getting that up and going. The other thing that they've done at Humboldt State is Adrienne has worked on identifying a liaison within their campuses in each of their departments. So at the financial aid department, at the housing department. There is a specific person that the former foster youth can get connected with to address their specific needs in helping to retain and support the foster youth while they're at Humboldt State. Other partners that we have are the Independent Living Skills Program, which is housed through social services, and a relatively new program, Transition Age Youth Program, the TAY unit, is also a strong partner where that is peer-to-peer support. Next slide. And I think one of the things back when we created the Foster Youth Education Steering Committee that allowed a lot of this collaboration to even take place was the creation of a standing court order out of the juvenile court back in 2009, which allows all of our agencies who have signed on to communicate and share information regarding foster youth and their educational needs. When I came on board in 2009, there was no such mechanism, and so I had no idea who our foster youth were and what school they were in, and I had no ability to really communicate with probation and or the tribes or social services. So this is a huge step forward in allowing agencies to support foster youth and in help to improve their educational standing and stability. And that court order we do have published in our Foster Youth Education Steering Foster Youth Education Guide, of which we are going to print with our 3rd edition, and that is posted on our HCOE website as well. This standing court order really allows, it brings down the barriers of having to get individual releases of information from individual attorneys and or parents, so that helps in the communication process. I've talked a little bit about the mentoring program with the Elite Scholar, and we also utilize from Humboldt State the social work department and students from the sociology department. For example, here in my at HCOE, I provide internship placements, and a number of these students work with our foster youth either as in mentoring and or tutoring as well. So that's been a great resource for us. And I mentioned briefly, we're working on the 3rd edition, bringing current legislation and up to date regarding the Humboldt County Interagency Guide. And that, again, will also be a linchpin within our Foster Youth Education Summit in March. That's been a great tool. We get that to the schools, to agency people, to caregivers, CASAs, attorneys, and this guide really is a quick guide as to whose responsibility is it to do what and who do you contact. And again, that guide is currently posted on our website, and as we print up the new 3rd edition, that will also be put up on our website as well. And I've talked a little bit about our annual luncheon, which has been very successful, and we've gotten a number of our foster youth really excited and interested in graduating and moving on to some more education, whether that's at a 2-year institution or at a 4-year institution. Next slide, please. And again, I mentioned a little bit about, so we go out as a team, and this can either be people from myself, probation, social services, UROC tribe, and we'll go out and do trainings regarding foster youth education, and particular keeping the idea of getting our kids graduated and onto higher education at the forefront And so we'll go out in small groups and do training, like I said, at caregivers, foster parents, at the CASA trainings, probation, tribal staff, and whoever invites us will show up and do a presentation. So I've kind of already hit a number of these ongoing work to create programs. Again, I hold out great hope for the elite scholars in developing that in a more formalized way of having current college students who are former foster youth reaching back down to our, matching them up with our current foster youth. I think that's going to be a goal of ours in the upcoming year. And we also have now a monthly kind of a newsletter that comes out concerning higher education issues. And that's coming out monthly, and we send that out email across our network as well. So I think that's kind of the highlights for our program, and I think I'm going to turn it over to Elise.
Thank you, Roger. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to take the next few minutes to spend some time talking about what's been happening in Santa Clara County with regards to the Juvenile Court Education Partnership. JCEP started in early 2008 and really grew out of an initiative that was already in place called the Juvenile Education Task Force, known as JET, which actually started back in 2005. JCEP emerged from the Foster Youth Service Program housed within the Santa Clara County Office of Education. The group initially focused on K-12 education, but has since incorporated linkages to post-secondary education through their high school preparation to higher education. Although higher ed was always a part of the discussion, JCEP chose to up the ante to focus more actively on higher education through the Foster Youth Success Initiative, which Sherry, my colleague, will discuss later on in the slide set. Prior to the creation of JCEP, there were several different meetings taking place related to foster youth and education, and these were all collapsed into one combined meeting to create the JCEP, which includes not only foster youth education, but justice-engaged youth as well. Once everyone began to understand really what the FYS mandate included, which was serving foster youth and youth in court and community schools as well as detention facilities, it became quite apparent that there was a need and an opportunity to combine our efforts around these two populations. JCEP was officially launched, and the committee began to identify where the system gaps existed and began to make suggestions on how do we close those gaps, how do we merge our resources between these two populations. This was largely due to the judges from both dependency and delinquency courts with a very strong level of involvement and leadership in this effort. From the structure standpoint, the advisory group, it says here, meets monthly, and actually it's evolved a bit now where the advisory group meets every other month, and the full work groups are subcommittees that are focused around as-needed issues on specific areas for improvement. For example, how do we improve access to tutoring, as well as the quality of tutoring that's being provided? How do we implement a summer school credit recovery program solely focused on foster youth? And how do we grow the high school emerging scholars program that improves high school completion rates? So foster youth services functioned as the coordinator initially, but this role actually not so much taken over, but became a shared responsibility with all the members of the team stepping up to participate. Specifically, Kids in Common, which is a local nonprofit advocacy organization here in Santa Clara County, as well as the Silicon Valley Children's Fund, who's focused on education and life outcomes for foster youth, really have stepped up to offer facilitation services during this meeting. The responsibilities may become a shared responsibility between DFCS and FYS and juvenile probation in the future. At one point, we actually thought it would be a great idea to rotate the meeting chair position, and found that actually it did not provide enough continuity for the group. So that was one of our lessons learned within that process. The group now functions largely as a clearinghouse for information, updates, system-related issues, but has really recently begun to evaluate outcomes. What's really the return on the investment of the dollars that are being put into these different programs to support the mission for the JCEP? And using that information to, at the end of a year time, to look at how do we reposition ourselves, how do we continually focus on improving those efforts to improve those outcomes. Let's see, next slide please. And as you can see here, just like with many of the other counties that have presented, lots of participation from other community-based organizations, as well as the Department of Family and Children's Services, County Office of Education, as well as the judges. The box that's really missing here, and I apologize for not identifying this earlier, but should be really at the top, is the youth participation. So we do have youth representation at these JCEP meetings as well. At this point, I did want to say one other thing about this. The JCEP at this point has decided that this January we'll be stepping back and kicking off a visioning and strategic planning process to really ask ourselves over the next 1 to 3 years, what new goals and objectives can we set to challenge ourselves to improve the work that's been happening and look at and really tightening up the connection between our K-12 and post-secondary efforts. And which at this point I'd like to turn over to my colleague Sherry Brooks, who's the Program Manager for Higher Education, to speak about the Community College Partnerships and the FYSI initiatives. Sherry?
Thank you, Elise. So I'll just go quickly over the accomplishments from the JCEP, and Elise, feel free to jump in here and you know, add anything if I forget to say something. All right, so as you can see or hear from what Elise was saying, there's been many successes from this JCEP collaborative. JCEP has become an avenue for information sharing amongst all those community partners. They've developed a partnership program in collaboration with the Department of Family and Children's Services, with Silicon Valley Children's Fund, with the County Office of Education, and the local CSUs called Emerging Scholars. Elise mentioned that briefly. And what that program is, this Emerging Scholars program, it pairs interns working or earning their MSW with foster youth in high school. And these MSW interns serve as their academic mentors throughout the school year. And these mentors meet with the high school students every other week to discuss really a range of issues around their education and, you know, what some of those barriers are that may be present in their life. And really, they could be helping them with homework, identifying, you know, why you didn't make it to class today, or like course selection. They talk about employment goals, long-term education goals, and, you know, specific services for seniors are really like updates around deadlines, because we know like FAFSA becomes available, you know, college application deadlines and things like that. And this program has been hugely successful. They've increased high school completion rates from 62% to 74%. The KC pass rates have increased from 73 to 89%. And a statistic that we here at the Fund are really ecstatic about and really proclaim from high and low is that for the past 2 years in a row, 100% of the youth eligible to return want to return and participate in the program. And we think that's really huge, because one of the barriers that we've, you know, traditionally always faced with programs for our youth is, you know, the participation or the desire to participate. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth, you know, to get kids to come to things or, you know, engage in a process. But, you know, through this program and the relationships that the students form with the interns, you know, it's really shown, you know, positive outcomes, and that they desire to continue and want to be in the program. The partnership between SVCF, County Office of Education, and Department of Family and Children's Services has also recently expanded to launch a summer school credit recovery program that Elise mentioned a bit ago, and that is in partnership with the National Hispanic University, a local private school here in Santa Clara County. And the students in this program can, over the summer, earn at least one semester of core English and math units. And that's towards their high school graduation. And I think the actual number of those units is around 10, so like 5 for English, 5 for math. And JCEP has been the incubator for an annual higher education summit that's open to all foster youth from middle school through high school. And that event usually or typically occurs at San Jose State University. And it includes presentations about higher education options, a college resource fair, and the opportunity to talk with former foster youth who are attending college. And that seems to be one of the most successful ways for our youth to really be engaged around this idea of higher education, is actually seeing and hearing from and being able to talk to other foster youth or former foster youth who have, been through similar experiences and still went on to higher education and are experiencing success in that area. And of course, the work doesn't stop there. Among some of the more recent projects through JCEP is a plan to implement a GED prep program and a SAT prep class in coordination with our county's ILP provider. Next slide, please. So in addition to JCEP, Silicon Valley Children's Fund has recently taken the lead in convening a county collaboration that includes Foster Youth Success Initiative liaisons, so those community college representatives from our local colleges, local university foster youth support program leads, our county office of education, the Department of Family and Children's Services, ILP, and CASA, which is the Child Advocates of Silicon Valley. So this is a group that meets bi-monthly, and really the focus for this whole group is on improving coordination between the Child Welfare Agency and local community colleges, and as well as kind of incorporating those community-based organizations and those supports that they can provide to help these students. And what we do, and we do this by focusing on issues related to improving access and retention in higher education. The way that I actually conceptualize this group is that we're a local think tank for foster youth success in higher education. When we get together, we are discussing strategies to help foster youth navigate potential barriers to their pursuit of higher education, as well as how to help youth capitalize on those existing supports that will help them achieve success in higher education. So when we're in our discussions or in those meetings, we're oftentimes discussing legislation implementation, whether that be on the higher education side or on social services side, and what those things will mean for our youth, right? And then how all of the community partners can play a role in, or might play a role in, assisting with making sure that, that legislation is implemented properly, or our youth are not adversely affected by it. Of course, we always make sure we're on top of how many foster youth are actually being served in the community colleges, and making sure they're connected, like I said, to all the resources that are available to them in the county. Next slide, please. So to date, there have been numerous positive outcomes from this collaboration, so I'll just highlight a few of those. So when AB 194 came through, there were information sharing sessions to exchange best practices on implementation for priority registration. Campuses were able to learn from one another on what works best in identifying foster youth and flagging them for priority registration. And we really think that this, those discussions and that sharing of information was helpful in our campuses being able to successfully implement the priority registration on their campuses. And as I mentioned previously, retention has always kind of been like one of those looming issues, right? And one of the barriers that, has always been, how to qualify or quantify that information, what is retention and, how do we track that? So we've worked with our representatives to establish benchmarks for measurement of retention. Another really positive outcome of our ability to work together is the coordination of partner efforts to support our ILP program in the county. And we do that by equipping the youth with the knowledge about higher education, like, you know, what do the different community colleges here in Santa Clara County offer? You know, what is financial aid and how do you access that? And part of our efforts, part of these efforts is like a couple of our local community college partners have actually been really instrumental in coordinating a special Cash for College event for foster youth. I'm not sure, or I think most of you might be aware of like the Cash for College initiative, and so that's you know, a series of workshops where students are able to get direct assistance in completing financial aid. And a couple of our community college partners have really, you know, gone above and beyond and made sure that our foster youth get a special workshop or specific workshop at the ILP offices every year. Next slide, please. Oh, next slide. Okay, so just to continue with some of these accomplishments, our collaborative also hosts an annual event in May, which is Foster Care Month, or National Foster Care Month, and really that month or event is to promote higher education opportunities and career pathways for our students, or our youth, sorry. And so every year it's like a different theme or a different way in which we approach the subject, but still always the focus on, you know, higher education as a means to, you know, helping our students become sustainable adults in the community. So as mentioned before, access and retention is really at the forefront of this group. And last year what we did, we took a little bit a different approach to, you know, what we were doing as a collaborative and convened around strategies to affect retention. And so these meetings, and we did, you know, really some deep dive discussions into, you know, what is affecting retention on our campus, like what are the campus representatives seeing, and what are, you know, what have the youth been explaining to them or telling them has been, you know, their barriers in staying in school. And those discussions really helped inform the development of a new retention initiative that we're calling RISE, which is Relationships Inspiring Scholar Excellence. And 4 of our community college partners within this collaborative are now piloting this retention program based on, it's a model based on academic coaching or mentoring. And its really basic purpose is to assist foster youth in the transition from high school to community college. I think we all know that that transition is difficult for any student, you know, going from high school to college level work, but specifically for our foster youth who often may not be aware of all the resources and supports that are available to them, we really thought that they needed some extra support around that. So like I said, there's 4 community college that are partnering to pilot this program. So to sum things up, we really feel strongly that these regularly occurring meetings provide a platform for ongoing discussions to improve the services to foster youth on the local college campuses. And our ability to come together to not only talk about but actually implement changes has really created a positive synergy amongst our county offices, our community-based organizations, and the college campuses. Thank you. So now I'll hand this back to Debbie.
Great. Thank you all so much for sharing information about your particular efforts underway in your regions. We're going to be moving on to the Q&A section in just a minute, so if folks do have questions, feel free to go ahead and use that question panel to send them over. Before we do the Q&A, I did want to provide a little bit of a summary. In addition to the folks that are on the call today, in preparing the report, I spoke with a whole range of people from the 6 different counties, as well as some of the other counties that were highlighted in the report. And there was a few lessons learned that really there were some themes that came out of all the conversations For folks that are interested in starting up a collaboration like this, if you don't have something like this already in existence in your county, so I just wanted to quickly kind of go over some of the themes that came up throughout the research for this report. The first is taking the time to find the right contact within each agency and at each campus. So if the effort's being initiated by a child welfare agency, identifying who the foster youth contact is at the local campuses can be a good place to start. Many of the 4-year campuses have foster youth support programs. The 2-year campuses all have the Foster Youth Success Initiative liaisons. And in addition to engaging the folks that work specifically with foster youth, reaching out to campus leadership early in the process as well, such as deans, administrators, or key faculty, to really bring them in on the efforts. If the initiative is being started by a college or university, offering to provide trainings to child welfare agency, to social workers about post-secondary education, or sponsoring college fairs for foster youth are a great way to connect with the child welfare agency in order to make those connections and identify the right people. Another lesson learned is casting the net wide and being inclusive rather than exclusive. You saw from the presentations that all of these collaborations really involve a wide range of folks, and I think that everybody I spoke with agreed that having all of those different entities at the table really made their efforts that much stronger. The other thing related to this is that if there's an agency that's difficult to engage, to not worry too much about it, to not spend a lot of time worrying about who's not attending, but really just focus on using the expertise of those who are participating. Another suggestion is that child welfare agencies who are interested in doing something like this can consider inviting colleges to existing collaborative meetings. So if you have an AB-12 work group or an outcomes work group, to make sure that your post-secondary partners are at the table for that. Keeping it simple, the saying that people have probably heard is that to not try to make it perfect before you begin, to just get it going. So you don't necessarily have to have money to do this. You don't even have to have a clear charge or a specific goal. The purpose can just begin with relationship development, to just get it going. And you saw that some of these efforts took a little bit of time to really sort of form into what they are today, but to just get it going, begin with regular meetings. It can be helpful to maybe take a single project to work on together to just get things started. Once the group is solidified, if you've been around for a while, it can be helpful to develop a more comprehensive project plan. You can take a look at your assets and strengths, what the barriers are, ask yourself the questions, where are we at, where do we want to be, and spend some time in developing some concrete goals, objectives, and timelines once you're more formulated. And it's also very helpful to have a central organizer to begin. Co-leadership can be valuable as well, so that some of that responsibility can be shared. And next slide. Oh, and actually, before the next slide, we do have this note on the bottom on the California College Pathways website. If you go to the link that's indicated there, you can actually find contact information for all of the foster youth contacts at California colleges and universities. So if you're not sure where to start in terms of the particular colleges in your area, that's a great resource to identify the individuals that you'd want to get in touch with. Next slide. Some other lessons learned: holding regular meetings with the core participants at a consistent time is useful. Using data to tell the story. So data can be a very powerful tool, and someplace that a collaboration might want to start is focusing some attention on creating systems for data gathering and evaluation, because this can really pay dividends down the line. Designing your group to meet the needs of your particular community. So you saw from these presentations, none of these are identical, depending on who the partners are, what the needs in the community, the size, the type of community. You want to make sure that the work you're doing is really focused on the specific needs of your area. Budget limitations require pooling together of resources, and so what a lot of the folks that I spoke with talked about is how by creating these collaborations, they're really able to leverage each other's resources. So in lean budget times, having this kind of collaboration made their work that much easier. And avoid blaming, if sometimes in communities there's this agency is not doing their job or that agency isn't doing their job right, and to really focus on the collaborative nature of this group rather than pointing fingers about who needs to be doing something better. So next slide. So this final slide has contact information for all of the folks that were on the call today, as well as our website. The PowerPoint presentation will be posted online along with a recording of this web seminar in case you want to listen to it again. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into some of the questions that we've had. So a question for Sherry. You talked about an event for Foster Youth Awareness Month, and we have a question about where that event is typically held.
That is a wonderful question. It's actually jumped around from different places. Since I've been working with this collaborative, we've had it at like a public place that we just rented out in the community, like located in a convenient location to where a lot of our youth are at. We've had it at Mission College, and we've just had it at different colleges and spaces throughout the community.
Great, thank you. Another question, I'm going to put this out to any of you who might want to answer. So the question is whether any of your programs have done any data analysis to identify what the measurable impact of your programs have had on things like college admission, graduation, retention, persistence. So if any of you folks have reached that stage and would be willing to share any of that information.
I could take a stab at that. This is Linda. When we first launched our program, our retention rates were less than 30% for our students attending Sierra College. And we didn't even know who our folks were out in the community as far as how many students we had out there that needed our services. So with the collaborative effort, we started keeping data, and our retention and success rates increased to over 65% at this point of our students who are coming in under our umbrella. And we've also started introducing the idea of we are receiving, actually let me just back this up a little bit, we're actually receiving students from other counties, not just Placer County, to help with their education success rates as well.
Great, thank you. And I know Santa Clara, you guys are starting to do some pretty intensive work there around data tracking.
Yeah, with regard to the JSEP, we've really just started evaluating outcomes for last year and taking a look at how that impacts the number of youth who are being served, looking at high school completion rates, and as Sherry mentioned with the RISE program, really understanding where, as a baseline, where are the retention rates, and that will be the data that we collect and move forward on as we evaluate the first year of that pilot.
Great, thank you. Sherry, so we had a question for you. Somebody was asking if you can describe a little bit more detail about the Cash for College event.
Okay, I can do that. So I'm not exactly sure what areas Cash for College is in, but for this particular area, it is, I think, run through CalSOAP. And so what they are, two community college representatives in our county, so the one at Evergreen and the one at Mission College, are really part of this CalSOAP initiative and do a lot of other presentations throughout the community. And so every year they speak with the CalSOAP representatives and ask that there's a special or specific workshop for foster youth, and this one is not advertised along with all of the other ones. So there's a general flyer that goes out and lists all the Cash for College events and what high schools they're occurring at, but there's a secret one, or what we call a secret one, for foster youth that is not advertised, that happens at the independent living program offices. And so we just, reserve a computer room and make sure we announce and create our own flyer for this event and have that dispersed throughout the county, you know, through DFCS, through CASA, through whatever agencies we know are working with our youth and have access to getting the announcements to our youth and recruit in that way.
Great, thank you. Linda, so there's a question for you. One of the accomplishments was establishing your system for priority registration. And so somebody is asking if you can share a little bit more about how you set up your priority registration system. And I will add, before you answer this question, for folks on the call, that we here at the John Burton Foundation are actually working on putting together a publication about priority registration, and we will be doing a web seminar in the spring. So we'll have a lot more information on best practices related to priority registration coming up in a few months. But Linda, if you could briefly kind of describe how you do your priority registration.
Sure. Initially, when AB 194, I believe is what it was called back in the day, was launched, I'm the financial aid director here at Sierra College, and I got together with our registrar, and we talked about how we could identify students using data initially, so that we wouldn't have to go out and say, hey, could you come back to us again and tell us if you are indeed a foster youth? So, because we'd been collecting some data for quite some time before 194 was enacted. And so now what we do when a student is admits to the college, submits their application to the college, they answer a question specific to them, and that they are identifying themselves, self-identifying themselves as a former foster youth. We automatically generate an email to that student, providing them with my contact information and our EOP&S contact, because we are here at Sierra, EOP&S and financial aid are peas and carrots. We work very closely together with this population and many others. And so then we start getting the contact information with these students to get them to matriculate into the college, because there's certain steps that all of us have to go through to become a college student, and we want to get them through there relatively fast so that they can have that priority registration established and help them select their courses and help them be more successful. So we're actually chasing them once they identify themselves to us. We're chasing them a little bit to get them in place, because we actually stop what we're doing and put them ahead of everybody else, because we're also trying to compete for dollars under the Chafee program as well. So we're chasing them.
Great, thank you. So a question for any of you. Stable housing for transition age youth is a critical piece on their path to independence. Can the panelists expand on any housing partnerships that you have formed?
I can do a little bit of that as well, if you don't mind. Now I feel like a
Great,
hog.
yeah.
Okay.
No,
call it up. So Sierra College does have dorms, and the dorm manager has given us 10 beds every semester for all of our new students. So if a student persists from, let's say, fall to spring, that bed is not held against us. So I'm getting 10 new beds each semester to house students right here on campus. And then we've got champions in our community, apartment managers and such, who are helping us with, those first and last month's rents that are right around the college. Sometimes they're a little lenient about how they might apply that to this particular population. And on our college transition support team, we have our THP Plus programs, ILP workers, and of course we've got resources to them to help through the THP Plus programs.
I would say, speaking for Humboldt County, both College of the Redwoods, they have a small dorm. They have a small dorm system, so there's not a lot of beds available overall. But they will work with individual foster youth who are identified in creating space and support systems for those students, and that's been going on for at least 2 years. So I think the ROP program there, not ROP, the support programs there in touch with the housing program are developing that as the kids come in. And then HSU has been doing that for at least 2 years, and there are several students taking advantage of that on campus as well. So off campus is a struggle. Housing, low-income housing, and housing in general is a struggle here in Humboldt County. So that really affects our AB 12 youth and those youth transitioning out of high school and ongoing. So that's an area that is probably of high priority as we move forward.
Great. So I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. So here's a question. The question is, if any of your collaborations have had discussions yet about doing outreach to former foster youth up to age 26 about their new entitlement to access Medi-Cal benefits through Obamacare. So this is a brand new thing that's just come out, and somebody's wondering if any of you folks have thought about tackling this outreach piece yet.
There's not that I'm aware of in Humboldt County.
Yeah, I think this is such a new thing that's now in place, but I think it's something that we at the John Burton Foundation are going to be taking a look at over the next several months to sort of see what resources we might be able to provide to college campuses to make sure that the word is getting out about the new access to Medi-Cal up to age 26 for foster youth. So, great question. I think that's about all we have time for today. So I know there's a couple questions we didn't get to, but we do need to close the web seminar now. So I want to thank you all for your participation. Thank you to the panelists that participated today. And as I mentioned before, we will be sending out the full report and this presentation to everybody who was on the web seminar. If you do have questions that we didn't get a chance to get to, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is there on the screen, as well as to any of our panelists with specific questions. And that ends today's web seminar. Thank you very much.